This is Julie Pearson, Little Thunder. Today is Thursday, November 9th, 2017, and I'm interviewing Bryan Waytula for the Oklahoma Native Artist Interview Series at Oklahoma State University, and it's part of the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. We're at Bryan's home in Sand Springs. Bryan, you teach art at Metro Christian School. You come from a long line of creative people, including 2 Cherokee National Treasure basket makers. Your media, however, are 2-dimensional, painting and graphics, and your style ranges from hyper-realistic to a kind of
more contemporary.
Pointillism, or we'll talk about that. You've been winning a lot of awards lately, and won an honorable mention at Santa Fe Indian Market the first year you were there. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about you and your work. Thanks for taking the time to talk with me.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Grew up around there too as well. I grew up there at my grandmother's, and then also in Sepulpa, Oklahoma, which is in Creek County. Pretty much my hometown was Sepulpa, Oklahoma, where I grew up.
What did your folks do for a living?
My mom stayed at home with us for a little while, and then she went back, earned her degree as an accountant, auditor, and my dad has been in the Parks and Recreation business for a very long time. He used to be president of OOHRP here in Oklahoma, and recently they both retired, so they both deserve it.
Right. Brothers or sisters?
I've got 1 brother and 1 sister, and then I have 6 stepbrothers.
Big family.
Yeah, big family, yeah.
What was your relationship to your grandparents on either side of your family?
On either side? Well, I was really close with, my dad being from Chicago. When he came down to Oklahoma to play basketball, he met my mom. It was a little easier. We lived here in Oklahoma, so I got to see my grandmother a lot more. My grandfather passed away on my mom's side before I really got to know him. I think I may have been 1 or 2 years old. But I have some pictures with him as well. But, got to know my grandmother here in Oklahoma a lot more. But, we'd travel up there during the holidays. Christmas in Chicago was cold.
Yes.
But, had a really good relationship with them too. Talked to them all the time, especially as I got older and learned to use a phone. But right now I have my grandmother who's still living, and but really had a good relationship with all of them. My grandfather played minor league baseball, so I was a big fan of his. Hearing stories and watching baseball, and go up there and visit and everything. And my grandmother in Chicago, Italian, she can cook. Every time I go up there to visit, I always put on weight. I knew I was going to put on weight. And then my grandmother here, we'd always go down Tahlequah and hang out with her and my cousin. We'd run around her acreage and just cause all kinds of trouble, jumping off her roof and things like that. And we put her through a lot. Yeah.
Well, that's what boys do.
Yeah.
What was your exposure to Cherokee culture growing up?
Really it was just us growing up. At the time, I didn't know I was being exposed to anything. I just thought that's how things were. Growing up, we would go visit my grandmother, it seemed almost every weekend. During the summers, we'd be down there running through the woods. And, my mom and my grandmother, they'd be weaving their baskets and us kids be running around. But, they tried to get us involved in the arts as well. My cousin started, traditional stomp dancing, or he did that for a little while. And we'd be, making keychains, things like that around the house growing up in Tahlequah. Keychains, drawings, anything we could get our hands on. It was always like we were trying to be creative. Go outside and play. Okay, we're going to go build a fort, or we're going to go build this, or let's try and make this. We were always trying to make something. And we'd come back in time for lunch, and they'd be putting their baskets away, or we'd be down there just mingling with them when we could. And they'd talk Cherokee, and we just like, what'd they say? And try and learn bits and pieces here and there.
Your grandmother was a speaker?
Yeah, she could. I mean, we learned, I think she passed away when I was about 15 years old, so I was still learning and trying to mature, and I was kind of the older one. My sister's 2 years younger, my brother was 6, and then my cousin, who was like my brother, was 2 years younger than me as well. Yeah, she was a speaker. We learned all the words what not to do, and it was like, oh, we're in trouble when she says that. Oh, okay, we don't. So we picked that up. But, just seeing them weaving the baskets, they'd go to shows. I'd go to a couple. My sister'd go to a couple. My cousin go to a couple. And they would be showing their baskets, and, we see them weaving, and they'd go out and gather honeysuckle and things like that. So, I don't know if it was they'd be like, hey, go get as much as you can. Okay, we'll get it. And we didn't know we were actually working, I guess. But yeah, I was just encouraged to do a lot of drawings, and when I was younger, and then we'd go to Cherokee Holiday, and we'd be out there, downtown for the candy. And, we'd see all the artists, the art shows. So I got exposed to a lot of different mediums that I really didn't know, at the time. Just seeing the artists, the basket weavers, the dancers were so cool, fancy dancers especially. But, it was just us growing up, getting to see all this. I thought it kind of happened everywhere, Go back to Chicago, you guys don't have powwows around here?
So, what is your first memory of making your first piece of art?
My mom, or I still have it. It was a picture I did of Garfield. And I don't know if it's in my baby book or if it's in my mom's hope chest. I can't remember, but I know we still have it. And yeah, it was a drawing I did of Garfield. I think I was 5 years old. I used to always read the comics and look at the cartoons and try and just copy them, and that's one I remember first off. Yeah.
So how about your art experiences in elementary school? This would be in Sapulpa, I guess.
Yeah, we moved. We were in Tahlequah, and then we moved to Chicago for a year, and that was just, I couldn't do it. I mean, it was just another lifestyle. Really busy, fast paced, a lot of people. Cars going by, right, where you're living. And so we moved back to Tahlequah, and then stayed there a year, and then moved to Sapulpa, where I grew up 4th grade on. But growing up in elementary school, we had art, but it wasn't, honestly, something that doesn't stand out in my mind until I got maybe 8th grade in Sapulpa. I don't even remember doing art in class. Until then. Other than what I was doing at home or at my grandmother's, just drawing or trying to make things at the house. But the first memory is, 8th grade year, I was at Lone Star Elementary in Sapulpa, and we had to do a half and half drawing, which you take half a magazine of a portrait or somebody, a model or something, and draw the other half. And I was pretty good at that. And the teacher, took notice and said, oh, well, try this, try that. And that's my earliest memory of doing art. In school.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any exposure to art in high school?
Yeah, as I was starting to, being an athlete, I was really big into athletics and everything like that, but had a little interest in the arts. And just freshman year, I wasn't very good at all. High school, 8th, 9th grade, awkward, 9th grade, it was terrible at everything I did, it seemed. The art teacher was trying to do this, try drawing this, and I was just like, I have no training in this, I'm terrible. And just really kind of discouraged me, I was just kind of like, God, I'm awful at this, I'll do something else. So, but tried it again my sophomore year and had a different teacher. Mr. Jeff Sable's his name, and he had been there a while. He was very good, and kind of encouraged me and taught me step by step how to develop, and did that all the way up until my high school senior career. And it was like, hey, you can get a scholarship doing this stuff, and my talents developed. Back then, you had all-state art, which I made, which was kind of cool.
So you made that competition.
Yeah, I had to submit slides, things like that, and ended up being awarded an All-State, which I was like, okay, cool, where's my jacket? Because basketball, all those athletes had jackets for All-State, and I was like, I'll take one for art. I want one of those cool jackets.
Right.
He really helped kind of push me, or encourage me, not really push, but to stay in the arts and everything. Yeah, and I was getting some nice recognition there at the high school, just, you did this, you got this award, and then the art show, and it was kind of nice, getting some recognition of something other than athletics, something that I enjoyed, so.
Yeah, because you were also playing basketball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pretty seriously.
Yeah, played basketball on 2-3 state championship teams. I mean, not championship. I mean, we went to the state tournament, and we were in the Final Four. I think two of the years I was there. So yeah, doing that, playing golf, just very active.
So how did you end up deciding to go to school at University of Oklahoma?
My mom. I mean, my parents they've always encouraged us to educate. You never stop learning. Always keep trying to improve yourself. Learn as much as you can. And I had some opportunities at USAO, I got accepted into University of Kansas, Oklahoma State University, and Northeastern State University. Then it came down to kind of scholarship. I submitted arts scholarships, just any kind of financial aid all over the state, trying to get financial aid to where I could go. My parents worked really hard, and it was just really tough to afford, and had to take out student loans. So we were trying to get as much as we could wherever we could. And OU came in and kind of gave me another scholarship at the last minute.
In art.
Yeah, in art, and just decided to sign with them.
So, did you know going in that you were going to be an art major? Is that a decision?
Sort of. I mean, I had to declare a major to keep my scholarship, so I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to be an artist. Otherwise, I'm going to have to figure out another way to pay for college if I lose my scholarship. But no, I wanted to do something in the arts, and I chose visual communications, which is design. I'm glad I did. I learned a lot about typography and type design, typefaces, just how to organize a layout, which actually helped me later on as an artist, develop my compositions and organize things.
What instructors stood out for you?
Dan Kiotz, who was a really good artist in his own. I know he had some artists out in some work out in New Mexico. He's a screen printer. Marwin Begay, who's there now, right. Working as a professor and also as an artist, a working artist, and he's very good. He was actually a grad student when I was there, so I actually got to know him that way, before he was a professor and a student. And I see him now. I touch base with him time to time. I know he's busy, but we saw each other in Santa Fe. I took some of my students up for their AP portfolio. And he was there reviewing portfolio. So again, it was good to run into him again. And Eric Anderson, who's still there at the university teaching design. Karen Thuman, who's still there teaching design. Dr. Mary Jo Watson, who was the dean there for a little while, and a professor. She really got me interested in learning more about my heritage and, just being Cherokee and asking more questions about our history and everything like that. So she was very impactful while I was at the university.
I was wondering if you were exploring Native subject matter at all in college.
Yeah, I took a couple courses on it, and that's where I ended up meeting Dr. Watson. And she was awesome. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I looked forward to her class. You know how some students, you take college courses and you're just like, oh my gosh, I got to sit through this boring lecture and look at slides. But her lectures on, the Aztecs and things like that as well. I was really interested in it.
So I'm gonna ask you about your Wayman Tisdale story in a minute because you have a neat story about him. But so you're taking these classes. Are you taking education classes also? Okay, so you are thinking in terms of.
Yeah, I wanted to go out and be a designer, I wanted to get my visual communications degree. I wanted to go out and try and work for a company just developing, websites, web design, business card, any kind of material they needed that would go out visually to a client or anything like that. And I just didn't, it wasn't what I thought it would be, especially in Oklahoma. I had family, so I wanted to stay in Oklahoma. I didn't want to move to LA or Chicago or Dallas, where I have, former, my old classmates from college, they moved out and they're doing well. But I just didn't want to leave Oklahoma, and it's really hard around here to find those kind of jobs. A lot of freelance, which I had no idea what even freelance was.
Is that what you ended up doing the first?
I did for a little while. I worked. Yeah, the worst job I ever had. It might have been the worst job I ever had. It was probably almost a year out of college. I was working for Signs Now as kind of a designer, and the vinyl and anyway, a vinyl company in Tulsa. I don't know if I can say their name. We can bleep that out. But man, I was like, these people's bad idea, this. It's just ugly. And I was just like, oh man, I can't do this anymore. Is this what I chose to spend all my money on? To do this? And I was just in for a rude awakening. And then after that, I was kind of like, you know what, I need a break. So I ended up working for Coca-Cola for a year. And man, that was a job. It was a good job, but I was kind of like, just built a lot of character, and I was just like, all right, I'd buckle down and really find something that I enjoy doing, and started doing some substitute teaching, and wanted to get into coaching like that. My younger brother was getting into high school where he was getting more mature and fun to watch and play against, and so I was like, I want to get into coaching. So that's when I went back to Northeastern State to take classes and work towards getting an education, certified in education.
Mm-hmm. And you weren't during this time period trying to do any art necessarily outside of your jobs?
Not really. I did a couple drawings here and there, but it wasn't, I didn't know, I was like, man, I don't know if you can make a living just doing this drawing or that drawing. And I was doing some drawings for professional athletes, or trying to, I want to do artwork, do some artwork that they could sign. I collect autographs when I was younger, and I thought. So
you were doing them like as gifts?
Yeah, sort of. Actually, I just wanted to draw them and be like, hey, can you sign my drawing? And then I keep it. But
I see.
Some of them ended up being gifts. When I was at OU, I knew some of the basketball players, and I was a walk-on until I got hurt. I just couldn't balance both.
Okay.
But I did a couple drawings while I was at OU for some of the football players I was rooming with in the dorm. One with the kicker. He did a drawing for his girlfriend at Christmas, and he signed a couple things for me, and that was the exchange. I learned to trade at an early age. And then, like Johnny Gilbert, who played basketball, I did a little drawing of him that he liked, thought was so cool. And you get some of these big time football players, because they won the national championship while I was there, and they're coming in wondering, who are you drawing? That's good, Okay, here.
That's cool. So you get your education degree, and then what's your first job when you get out?
First job that I got out, I took a job in Kansas. It was Chapman, Kansas. Small rural school. I can't remember the class, maybe 2A or 3, maybe 2A, I don't know. But just outside of Fort Riley. But I lived in Manhattan, Kansas, which K-State, college town, commuted to Chapman. And I actually got lucky. It was the first job that was offered, and they kind of put a deadline on me. And I get it, they didn't want me, kind of waiting for other jobs to open up and see. But I got lucky taking that job. At first I was like, oh my gosh, I'm moving to Kansas. What am I doing? I'm going away from home. It's a little scary. I got all my stuff in a U-Haul. I moved up there to teach art and coach basketball. And I met a gentleman, Pete Spratlin. I love Pete. He ended up writing the curriculum for art there in the state of Kansas. Went to the K-State University, Kansas State. Very good potter. He was a very good artist. So I was lucky. And he was retiring, and he had been there for a long time. He developed a screen printing company there inside the school that helped generate scholarships for students that worked in his program. He's just a phenomenal artist. Worked in clay. He built his own kiln that was gas fired. I mean, the dude, he was mixing his own chemicals for glazes. A jeweler. And for that first year, he stayed on. He came on 2-3 hours a day to work the screen printing to kind of help me out because I was coaching. And dude was just awesome. It was a great learning experience under him.
I was gonna say it's more art education.
Yeah, it really was. It was like a grad student working alongside a professor really every day. So I was really fortunate.
Well, do tell us your Wayman Tisdale story.
Well, I was at my dad's friend, playing in Chicago. He was a very good ball player. Played in a lot of summer pro leagues there in Chicago, and one of his best friends from college was Danny Crawford, who was #1 ranked NBA official, who recently retired. I think he was in the NBA refereeing for like 30-something years. But anyway, he came to Tulsa to do a John Starks tournament when we were younger, and I was like, I don't know, 13, 14 years old. And anyway, Wayman Tisdale was there at the charity John Starks tournament. And so we got to go in after the game, meet all these players and everything. And I remember meeting him first time, and he, took time to talk to us kids and everything. It was just so big. I was like, wow, he is tall. Really nice guy. It was just very cool to talk to, smile, just like, he's a very cool guy. He was like, yeah, you met Wayman Tisdale. I was like, who? That was Wayman Tisdale? No kidding, that's, and I found out who he was later as I got older, all his accolades and everything, because I was just I think I was like an 8th grader, so I didn't know all this stuff. But then I got to college, chose OU, and, I always wanted to play basketball. So freshman year at Lloyd Noble, I tried out. Bad idea, not developed yet. I'm still maturing. I couldn't even finish the walk-on tryout. I got dizzy, about passed out. I had Eduardo Nahara, like, you okay? I was like, no, man. But, and then just walking around, seeing what Wayman had accomplished, I was like, man, this guy's done a lot. So I had a lot of respect for him, too. And then I actually, being on campus there at OU, I was fortunate to run into him again while I was walking on the basketball program as a junior. And, just, hey, I'm a friend of Danny Crawford's, and met you a long, long time ago. I was a kid. And he's just really nice. Took time out for people, didn't, he wasn't he was just really personable, and just really impressed by just how he was. And I know he was playing music. I think he was playing music around that time, starting out, but and then continued to do it with his bass guitar. And anyway, so and seeing what he was doing around the state of Oklahoma after he retired from basketball, and and then just hearing of his passing, it was really sudden, and was really saddened by it. So I just wanted to do something. In anything I do with my art, I want to try and make an impact or have it, be meaningful towards something. So I wanted to donate, do a drawing of him, really large one. And then ended up donating it to OU to where they could do whatever they would like with it. Just kind of something I could say thank you for just taking time for a little kid, a couple times, and just
Do they still have the piece?
Yeah, I know they still have it somewhere at the Fred Jones Jr. Museum. I don't know if it's put away. They contacted me a while ago and just asked, was there any specific? I was just like, whatever you guys wanted, to put it up, or if you wanted to auction it off to raise some funds for the department, or just just anything they wanted to do with it,
Right.
But it was really nice. The feedback I got from the university when I brought it down there, President Bourne took time to write a nice little letter, and I hope the family got to see it and they liked it. I hope they do. I hope they did. But he was a really nice man, and I was just lucky to meet him.
So when did you start entering native art markets and competitive shows?
Well, my first one was, I think I was 24 maybe, and I did a drawing and just said, okay, I'll try it. Because my mom, after my grandmother passed away, Mom stopped weaving for a while, and I stopped just, drawing and really looking and doing anything with my heritage, because every time I brought it up or talked about it, it'd make Mom sad, and it was hard since they weave baskets and they were so close. So I went for a while there without doing a lot of art or competitions. But the first one I got an honorable mention on one of my drawings. First one I put in, I was like, oh, that's so cool, And I was like, okay, well, I'll try.
Which show was it?
Oh gosh, I know it was at the Heritage Center, but it was a long time ago. I don't remember. I don't remember what show it was. I just know, I remember being there and seeing my green ribbon, and I was like, oh, I got an honorable mention. Very cool. Someone liked it. But that's my earliest, memory of entering a competition.
Right. Well, eventually you end up teaching in Sapulpa.
I went back. I left Kansas after 2 years, and the teacher who taught me was retiring and stepping down, and reached out to me, hey, would you be interested? I'd like to, just let you know I'm stepping down. And I was excited. I was like, I get to go back home. Just be around friends and family and things like that. So I took it, and I ended up coaching there and teaching art there at Sapulpa for 5 years.
Now, when you were doing your art, did the teaching aspect influence you in any way?
Yeah, it did. Some of the projects we were working on in class, and teaching students, I'm practicing every day. I'll sit here and draw in shade and show a kid how to do this, or we're drawing figure drawings or life drawings and things like that. And I'm like, no, you need to be more here, and I'll be working. So I was like practicing, it seemed like every day. We get some ideas from lessons. I'm like, I could put that in my artwork somehow. See if I can incorporate this. And so it kind of was teaching myself as well, kind of just some new mediums, or, with the budgets that they give us, we just, all right, let's get this kind of art, medium, let's try inks, or we'll work in this next year. And some things I didn't get a chance to work in. So it gave me a chance to kind of experiment too, while teaching the kids how to do something.
Right. So what do you consider your first then important award where you're kind of on track?
Being recognized. I did a white charcoal drawing on black of a Vietnam soldier. He was Native American, and it was kind of a rendering of like 3 or 4 different images that I put into one. And I researched archival Vietnam images because I wanted it to be accurate, historically accurate. And it was big too. I have a problem with working big sometimes.
It was a drawing?
Yeah, it was a charcoal drawing. And had it up. And again, I'm still young. This was my first competition, really. My mom was encouraging me to do more shows and things like that. And, I don't know a lot of artists yet, or a lot of people in that art community. and I was awarded Emerging Artist, and then also received the Bill Rabbit Legacy Award, who I remember before he passed away. And I knew his daughter Tracy. Bill was kind of our guy. We'd be running around the Cherokee Holiday or the art shows and the Heritage Center, and I was like, oh, let's go see the Rabbit. He had the aviators, he had the goatee, and
Right.
he could paint, and we always thought he had the cool last name Rabbit. And so when I received that award, it was meaningful and everything, and I was shocked. I was talking to my mom. All right, we're gonna discuss the Bill Rabbit, Legacy Award, and my mom and I were just talking kind of quietly in the background, and then they said my name. My mom just kind of like, she was really excited, and I was just kind of like, what? Really?
How big was the drawing?
It was over. It had to have been close to 34 by 48 or 30 by 42. It was a big charcoal drawing. Yeah.
Neat. And that was 2014, right?
2014 or 2015, I think. Okay. Yeah.
So, what are some of the major themes of your work right now?
Really just right now, just anything that comes across that just hits me and I want to raise awareness to, or inform people about. Just a lot of things. As I get older, I'm starting to learn more and more, developing relationships with more Native American artists, dancers, the more, active I am, the more people I get to meet, and I get to hear their stories as well, and their thoughts and what they think, and just anything that I'm passionate about, that I want them to be proud of seeing, or that kind of brings up things that may have happened in our past, just so we don't forget them. It's not like, they did this to us, or the government, just so that we don't forget. It happened. We're moving on. But a lot of students, me growing up in Oklahoma, I remember my brother was supposed to partake in a land run or something, and now I understand now why my mom was upset about it, and I was kind of like, why won't they let Jake have any fun, and I was like, oh, now I understand why. So there's thoughts and things, memories like that come up from my childhood or adolescence, just kind of growing up, that I try and I'll put towards my work now, or animals that given stories on. And my grandmother taught me and my cousin the scariest story about this wolf that runs around at night, and it's a ghost wolf, and you can't be outside after. I'm like, was she serious, or was she just getting one? So that might end up in a painting one day or something. But right now with the pipelines, we're trying to run all these routes through native lands and things like that, and they're looking for any way to get around it, and how can we do this, who can we pay off, there's just a lot of things going on. The thing with the Dakota pipeline was a big thing for me, and I wanted to go up there. I had a lot of friends that went up there to support them. They weren't standing on the front line. Some were there just to support, bring blankets, food, supplies, whatever they could. I had just had my son, who was premature, and I would not be alive today if I went, probably. My wife would have killed me. But, I felt the responsibility as a father and a husband to stay home and just take care of them. But I did a piece, We Stand as One, that has Water's Life in the background repeating, and just kind of pay homage for those that went. I wasn't able to, and it was an important time in our history where we all came together and had one voice. And so all my friends, I put it on Facebook as I was working through this, and upon its completion, kind of reached out to my friends, different tribes who went, friends who I know went. Hey man, who are your friends' names that went? What tribe are they? tell me a little bit what they do. And I made sure I put all their names who replied on the back to kind of give them, show them my respect and thank you for what they did. Take time out, their own budget to drive up there and everything. So that was something I was really passionate about. Another thing is the Trail of Tears piece I'm working on. I'm entitling Sincerely Andrew Jackson. I enjoy history a little bit. I mean, I'm not the smartest when it comes to reciting documents or, dates and events, things like that. But I was curious and I read his letter to Congress just out of curiosity. I know our .gov, they have images of documents, actual documents, handwritten documents. So I was curious. I was like, let's see what his handwriting looked like or whatever, And did not like some of the things he said in that. And again, it was probably just somebody who's not been around us or understood the culture or our ways back then, and just took time. They only had their own opinion or perspective on us, and didn't like some of the words that were said, just kind of how he described us and everything. And I'd always heard about it. When I was little, and I was like, why do they call it that? Tried to do some more research on that as I started getting older, and as I started developing my skills, kind of like, I'm going to do a piece finally about this and just raise awareness, a statement piece or something. So recently it's still in the works. And after reading through that, I was just like, yeah, I got to put this on canvas or something. And used a friend of mine kind of as the model, clutching a blanket, cold, and it actually simulates his handwriting in that letter in the back. I mean, you can read the background. That's exactly what he said for that piece, and just just something that we won't forget. And that's kind of why I titled it Sincerely Andrew Jackson. I was like, well, thank you for.
That's a great concept.
But so that's what I try to do in my pieces. I put a lot of emotion into it. Anything that I'm happy about, sad about, frustrated about, angry about. Some things that might be funny. I did a painting about the Indian Motorcycle Company. I titled that piece "Full Blood Indian." A shot of the tank that has the word Indian on it. And then I did a piece on my mom, titled "Her Mother Earth," based off of my mom. Just my interpretations. I like mythology a little bit, so I really love our stories that we tell, and I try and put a different spin on things. And I love other tribes' stories too. I find them fascinating. And I don't like to just pigeonhole myself in, okay, he's Cherokee, so he has to draw only Cherokee stories or only Cherokee legends or Cherokee traditions. I was like, why? If I'm good at what I do, and I want to promote other tribes and what they do, I want to make sure I'm properly informed and I do my research. But why can't I say a little bit more or put a little different new age spin on some things, And Robert Lewis is one of my favorite Cherokee treasures because of the stories he tells. He's a storyteller, and he's the coolest, and I like the spin that he puts on old traditional stories and comes up with his new stories.
And portraits are a big vein of your work.
I really enjoy portraits. As I got into this new style, I really enjoyed mosaics and stained glass growing up. I always liked puzzles. Anytime I was at my grandmother's, it seemed like I was doing a puzzle, or I'd be at home, I was doing a puzzle. I remember doing collages with my dad on the table. And so it kind of developed into this style where I'm using the contrast of colors, different colors, different sizes, contrast in shapes, and the circles. I learned that in pointillism. The more dots you put in an area, the darker it's going to get. If you're using black ink on white paper, then the less it's going to appear brighter. So I take that theory kind of into my paintings, and went into them as first, doing things that I would hope one day the Cherokee Nation would build a museum to where they're housing in all this these priceless works, you know, that artists are doing. If they had a museum, that would be awesome. If they had a Jane Austen piece, you know, a basket by my grandmother that I think my mom has one, but they're a lot. I mean, you know, they didn't have internet or track them. It was just how they supported themselves. But I started doing some portraits so I could kind of document a little bit. I did one of my grandmother, and she's sitting weaving a basket, and it has the oil on the background, more the acrylic for to fill her out, and so she pops off that background, and kind of as a way to just document, you know, this was my grandmother. She was a Cherokee treasure. This was her story. This is what she did. Same way I did one with my mom as my interpretation of Mother Earth. If I saw Mother Earth, this is what she would appear like, you know, very colorful in her appearance and everything. And then I did a portrait of Mr. Joe Thornton, who was an Olympic archer in his youth. You know, I started with the Renaissance type background, you know, with the oil background to really make it pop and add a little more contemporary spin on it. And but I went into those portraits thinking, okay, these are important people. You know, they you know, it's like the Mona Lisa. You know, it's one of the more famous portraits. And you know, Vermeer's Girl with a Pearl Earring, all these stories about these people whose portraits are painted, you know, well, who do we have, you know, rather than, you know, you see them in books, or you might get a picture way back then of what they look like, but when you see them in galleries, and that's kind of what I was aiming for at the beginning.
And contemporary, when you see the contemporary.
Yeah.
People of your time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I admired what Chuck Close has done with his style, and you know, it's just kind of like, you know, I wonder how he does that. You know, with the circles of color, making them come together, and so you know, just my studies at OU really helped me as an artist kind of progress to where I'm at now, what I'm trying.
Yeah, it's really neat stuff. So you went to Santa Fe Indian Market for the first time in 2015 or 2016?
Just this last year. I was there, yeah. 2017 was my first year to apply. Mom tried to get me to do it the year before, but just teaching, it's busy. You know, it's hard to do. And I mean, you have to apply so far out ahead because it's that many people that come in. And I was just overwhelmed with, you know, I was excited. I got the letter, oh, you're in. I was like, sweet.
Did your mom go with you?
She was in too. She got in. Last year she was on the waiting list, and she got in and went and then told me about it, and I was like, I gotta try this. This is cool.
You didn't share a booth?
No, we didn't share a booth. She got in on her own skills, which, I mean, she's good. And I'm doing this. Like, I hope I get in. So I was fortunate that whoever did the judging or application process or the board, you know, found my work interesting. But man, that was an eye-opening experience going to Santa Fe, and you know, I'm meeting all these artists, and you know, their works are in galleries, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's him, you know. And it was kind of cool too. I have a former student that's out there, and he's becoming an artist in his own right. I mean, he's very good. Went to the Art Institute out there, and he was there, had his own booth too. So it was really cool to catch up with him, and you know, see artists from Oklahoma too drive all this way. I'm like, man, that's a long way, a long trip for art. You know, Tracy Rabbit was there. God, I can't even think of some of the other artists that were there because it was just a blur. Yeah, I mean, it's just a blur with all these artists and some new artists that I met too. I was like, man, they're doing some really good stuff, you know, where they're from. Like, wow, this guy in Maine is making some baskets that are, holy smokes. So it was just eye-opening and humbling too. I was kind of like, it kind of put me in my place a little bit. I'm like, yeah, you know, I got out there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not saying a word around this person. They're really good. I just want to look at what they got, you know. but it was really nice. Everybody's there to help everyone, and you have questions, they open up, and this is how I do this, or this is how my mom told me how to do this, or my dad taught me this, and it was a really cool experience. I hope I get in next year.
I'm betting you will. So you had some gallery opportunities come up out of this visit too.
Yeah, this last year's been a lot of fun. And it's nice when people say they like your work, or what you do. I mean, anything you do, you put a lot of work into. So during my time out there, and I've been told you need to go out again. If you slow, which I didn't. I had a lot of people come up and talk to me and really like my work. Wow, it's different. And I was like, okay. And another person, wow, that's interesting. Okay. That's different. I've never seen this before. Okay. So I was kind of like, am I doing something wrong? I mean, I like what I do. They keep asking me about all the circles. How many are there? I was like, I'm never counting them. You want to count, you can count. Just at first I was kind of like, well, I haven't made any sales, on my original pieces, and everyone's saying it's different. They like it. It's interesting. But then I met a gentleman, his name's Lynn Fox. He works primarily in Pueblo pottery. Approached me, and that's where I sold my first original in Santa Fe, was to him. And then he contacted me. He was very complimentary about my work. Had nothing but nice things to say about it's different. I was like, okay, you too, But that was a good thing. I'm finding out later on is that nobody's kind of doing this style. Yes, it's falling in the pointillism category, but it's unique. Different color combinations, subject matter, things like that. Anyway, he gave me a shot. He was like, "Hey, give me a call. I'd love to set something up." And I was like, "I live in Oklahoma. You know that, right?" Because I'm like thinking, how do I get works from here to there? Because I still think to myself, I'm kind of a rookie still. And he's like, "Don't worry about it. We'll get something set up." And I was like, "Well, I teach full time. It's really hard for me to travel. I can't get up here, whenever. Kind of have to go by holidays and whenever the kids are out of school." And so we have something set up in March during spring break where I can bring some works up there. And recently just shipped up probably three pieces. One of which just recently sold after, I think he said, like, it was hanging up for like 2 days.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Someone purchased it, but I'm really looking forward to going up there and having my first show for a month in his gallery. But he's the first one to really take notice there in Santa Fe and give me the opportunity. And
that's really exciting. So you also have an opportunity coming up with Chickasaw Nation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Marcus Milligan approached me, and when I was down there for the Artesian, they got to see my work, and that was my first show there. I'd never been down there before. My mom had done, like I said, I feel like I'm the rookie still. My mom's kind of guiding me too, and other artists saying, "Hey, you need to try this show. You need to definitely get into this show. Apply for this show. You need to do this show. You need to go here." And I'm like, okay. So I'm taking notes, and my mom was telling me, "You need to get into the Artesian next year." I was like, "What is that?" And it was down in Sulphur, and never been down there before. Past Norman, me just going to school, Norman, that was far enough. But they really enjoyed my work there. Got a lot of compliments, and then decided to go back and do CSAM there in Tishomingo. And Marcus Milligan, Mr. Milligan, approached me, and they really liked my work again, complimentary on it. Sold 2 originals down there during that in my Prismacolor style, which is more the photorealism.
Right.
And not too many people. I mean, there's artists I follow on Instagram, and I take notes when I see others doing work that I think is better than mine. I'm like, "Ooh, how'd they do that?" or "How'd they do this?" Okay, let's, I try and study other artists too. And he approached me in doing a show with them, showing some of my work, and then also trying to do a workshop.
In Prismacolor?
Yeah, in teaching other Native Americans or anyone who wants to take the class there with the Chickasaw Nation in how to use Prismacolors and how to make them look realistic. Because not too many people, I learned in high school from my art teacher, he got me started on those, and I just kind of, everyone likes color, and I was like, it's hard for me to paint and blend and things like that, so I'd always go back to a colored pencil, which they look like paintings, but they're drawings.
Right. Well, and I was gonna, that's a good segue into talking a little bit about your techniques. So the challenges of Prismacolor are what?
Well, at first, I mean, Prismacolors are kind of looked down upon. You're not going to see a lot of Prismacolors really in galleries because, you know, if you go to New York or places like that, Chicago, you know, they're not oil paintings. They're not acrylic paintings. They're not watercolors. They're not charcoal. They're not your traditional medium.
But they're not easy to work with either.
No, they're not really. They're not easy to work with. I mean, at least that's what I've been told through other art groups, not just Native American, but you know, other art groups that, you know, galleries, they just don't really colored pencils. No, but I still enjoy them. I don't care what they think.
You might change that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of artists that work in Prismacolor or just colored pencil. I know Faber-Castell makes a good product too, but you know, I work a lot in those. I've done it for so long in high school, and you know, I do some stuff for Oral Roberts baseball with their program. I've done a Prismacolor that Cy Young winner, Dallas Keuchel, he's an Oklahoma boy, signed, and they auctioned it off. I have three or four former players that are playing for Oral Roberts baseball right now. They're good. And that's kind of why I do it, you know. The money generated is going to go towards them and help them out in that program. And it got me a couple signed baseballs too. I got one for my son too.
Still trading, huh?
Yeah, still trading. I'm still trading my artwork. But you know, it's a good trade.
That's neat.
To help them out. But yeah, you know, it's a layering process with those colored pencils. You have to layer a little here, a little there, a little more, and you have to know what colors to mix to get a certain flesh tone or a certain highlight, and just a reflective, how to do reflection, things like that. It just takes time and practice, and hopefully I can, you know, I'd like to do that with the Cherokee Nation one day as well, hold a workshop. You know, I love the opportunity they're giving me down there, the Chickasaw Nation, to do a workshop and to teach that medium there too. So we'll see if I can do it.
Yeah, that will.
Hopefully I don't freeze up.
That will be fun. No. So you do this real interesting combination of the oil paint background and acrylics, but you also do some straight up acrylic.
Yeah, I'll.
And it seems like your format sort of, it's a larger format.
Yeah, you know, I know there's artists that they have their own style and they like to, you know, doing my drawings and stuff, it seemed like, okay, that's a good drawing. Who is it? I can't, you know, you don't know Joe Schmo from Joe Blow when it comes to drawings, you know. I mean, they're good, they're realistic. I mean, I'm like, wow, they really did a good job on that, you know, but it was hard to set yourself apart style-wise when it came to drawing or maybe painting landscapes, you know. I mean, I can tell what a Bob Ross looks like, or I can tell what a Monet or a Van Gogh or a Degas, things like that. You know, you see that style, and they're usually the first ones that kind of create that style, something unique that's eye-catching, something different. But when it came to a lot of my drawings I was doing, I mean, it shows good technique and skill, but I kind of wanted to stand out on my own. I didn't want to do drawings like everybody else. And so I started playing around with oils, and I was like, I'm a bad oil painter. I've never been taught. I don't know the technique. I don't know the layering, but I know how to blend. So I started using kind of a little bit of the Renaissance technique and portraitures. That's how I developed the kind of the nice contrast of the oil background with the contrast, the intensity of the acrylics bring, and then, you know, the black contrast that goes around them, much like you see when you're in a stained glass at a church or wherever. and you're seeing it looking from the inside, and you see all the black that just brings out all those colors. But I work in different mediums too in the same one. Not just oil, acrylic, enamel, ink. I've got markers in this one right here. I have markers on the background.
Okay.
They're the architecture markers. Again, Prismacolor. I feel like I'm doing a piece. Buy Prismacolor. But the handwriting is has two Prismacolors in it. A really light one. And then kind of a dark one just highlighted in areas, and then back on the light one again, so that it looks like that iron ink, where it would settle and then turn brown, but it would settle again and be darker, to kind of simulate the handwriting. So I try and work in different mediums. I don't know, maybe I'll put in paper or transfers or something like that in my next one.
Keep experimenting. Yeah.
But I like to try and keep the circles kind of as my signature, because I really like how, I don't know, maybe it's just my eyes when I'm just tired and I don't want to have to strain my eye. I'll just do this and I can see it. But I like how they blend together from a distance.
Right, you can really see that influence from liking doing that mosaic stuff. So do you do much preliminary sketching?
Well, a lot of my preliminary sketching, I have a little sketchbook, and when I have an idea, I'm like, all right, I got to get this. I'll just sketch it out really quick. I wish I was more like Roy Boney. That guy, his sketches on Facebook, he's a cool guy, and artist. I like his style, but I mean, sketching, I can do it, but I need some references. I like to go out and I like to set up. I use what I learned at OU with Photoshop, Illustrator, things like that, to kind of take pictures and then collaborate them together to really get the pose I want. Because, it's hard for me. When I get an idea, I'm like, all right, I need to do it now. And I don't know if that's just all artists, we're bad at scheduling, I guess. And I have a hard time scheduling a model. Okay, you're gonna come in. Gosh, but I want to do it right now, So I'll Photoshop and I'll take some pictures, or I'll pose, or I'll have somebody else pose, or ask, hey, send me a selfie. Which I actually did for this piece right here, a friend of mine. Okay. Like, just shoot me a selfie. I want to use your face. They go, okay. And so you need to be sad, kind of, or sorrowful. Just don't smile, So she shoots me 3 selfies, and I Photoshop that out, and I find another pose that I find with a blanket, and I Photoshop these in. And I'm like, there it is. All right. And then I start to sketch it out and just see where it goes, and hopefully it turns out well, where I'm not scrapping it and wasting my time. But all my practicing, my sketching, everything I do teaching, kids life drawing from a grid, how to look at a grid's reference lines. All right, you're drawing your head here. Where's your reference? Where's this line? Yeah, see? Okay, yeah, you should be drawing your head up here. That's why you look like an alien. So that's where I get a lot of my practice, I sketch on kids' drawings all day. That's my practice. I'm fixing a lot of mistakes every day.
How did you figure out your signature?
My high school teacher said, you've really got to work on your signature. So he taught us how to sign, your first initial big, a little bit smaller, and then your second initial, a lot larger, and then smaller. It doesn't always have to be legible. You need to know that that's supposed to be a letter and then a Y. Otherwise, what's the point? But I've gone through a couple signatures, and it's taken me years to practice getting it just right. And, I tell my students too, you need to learn how to sign your name to where they can read it first. And then when you get bigger and better and people start identifying your work, you can initial it for all I care, but you want people to know who you are. They're not going to know CW. Okay, CW did a great job. Can I Google CW and find out who it is? No. So I tell them, make sure you come up with a really sharp signature, work on it to where it's somewhat legible, I tell them a lot of professional athletes, they're signing all these autographs. They are taught, hey, this is how you're supposed to sign your name, to where you can read part of it, but still at the same time sign 550, before a game or something. But So, you know, I've been developing my signature for years and years and years, and finally settled on this one that I do now.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and placement and size and everything.
Yeah, I always tell them lower left or lower right, you know, and don't detract from your piece, but at the same time, don't hide your signature. You know, we want people to look at it and be like, oh, that's Bryan Waytula. You know, they're not hunting around. Well, who did it? You know, and oh, I can't see it or I can't make it out. Oh well, by that time you lose business, or you might lose a client. Or
describe your creative process from the time you get an idea.
I can't sleep. My wife probably hates it.
Want to do it right away?
I do want to do it right away. I will sit and lay in bed and I will just think, oh, that's a good idea. How can I change this? Well, what if I did this? What if I did that? And I'm tossing and turning. I was like, I gotta shut my brain off. Can't do it. So when I get an idea, I'm like, I gotta finish it right then. That's probably why my wife. That's probably why we work well together. I mean, she loves to schedule. Things are set. And, I'm just sporadic. Like, oh, I got an idea. I gotta go work. And then I walk out the door, and she's like, what? They're getting ready to eat. Yeah, I'm pretty sporadic. Once I get an idea and I know it's a good idea, I really go with it and I try and investigate it until I'm happy, or I can say, okay, now's a stopping point, or I exhaust myself to where I'm like, my brain hurts. I can't do this anymore. I need a break. But I don't want to lose that idea. You know, everyone said keep a sketchbook. You know, write your ideas down. I'm like, well, if I do that, I'll forget it. Honestly, I forget about it. I go back and I was like, oh yeah, that was a good idea. What was I wanting to do? You know, or I have a little sketch and I was like, I have no idea what that meant. You know, I might as well have tried to record myself. By then, my passion for that is kind of gone, and I've moved on to something else. So anytime I get an idea, I try and knock it out really fast, just so that I don't lose any kind of, it doesn't become a job, you know, like, oh, I gotta finish this. I don't like it, it's not turning out right, you know, I want to do it all, I'm passionate about it, and have the energy to, the interest to.
So it's not like you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to work a couple nights after school, or I'm going to work this whole weekend.
We try, or I try to do that. You know, during my planned periods at school or at work, you know, that's me. I'm employed to educate others about art. You know, influence them, try and get them interested, you know, drawing skills, technique, things like that. The downside of that is the documents that the state and they make you do. You got to fill out this and make sure. I was like, you know, nowadays it's like they don't trust the individual to be professional enough in what they know or what they do to just do what you do. You know, I think we're losing a lot of teachers because of all the paperwork we have to fill out and just the redundancy of it's overkill. You know, so I'll be working there, and then I'm like, I've got to be creative for a while. You know, I've been drawing on all these kids' mistakes, trying to fix their projects, or I've been gluing my hands together in all this this project we're working on, or covered in paint. I got to wash. I got to do something for me. So I'll take an hour to myself. You know, most professionals will take their hour lunch break. We only get a couple minutes to inhale our food. You know, because you got recess and then you're back teaching. So, you know, some professionals, you get an hour massage, or they go to the gym or something like that. And I was like, I got to be creative for an hour. So if I'm working on a piece, the kids get to watch me do it in class. They get to see its progress too. Like, man, he's really putting the time in. You know, I was like, yeah, I worked like 4 hours after work on this, guys. And you guys are complaining about putting in 30 minutes during the day, during the class period. You know, so it's good exposure for them to see a working artist. And, you know, yeah, there'll be days I'll stay after, work 2 or 3 hours, or sometimes I'll work and then I'll come home and I'll bring it with me and I'll get in the studio and I'll zone out and jam out with my music for a couple hours. Or on the weekend, you know, getting ready for a show, I'm like, my wife Linda, she's very, understanding, and she's like, yeah, I know, go ahead. All right, I'll watch Bryson. I was like, okay. But she gets it, you know, now that she's seen me go to these shows, the recognition I'm getting, the demand for the style that I'm that I'm graced with. I'm blessed with, people wanting to request these things. Hey, can you get me this? Can you get me that? Hey, how much would this commission run? Or can you get me a couple pieces for my show? Or I'm just like, okay. So she understands what goes in the work and how long it takes, and she's like, wow, that takes a long time to do. I was like, yeah, it does. And then she asked, how many circles are in that? How many you got? I was like, I don't know. Count them. I'm going to sleep.
Well, I think you've just got a really bright, promising career ahead of you, and your actual time doing markets and galleries has been very short, but
Thank you.
Looking back at this point, do you think there's any particular thing that was sort of a fork in the road for you, or a water bench
Well, just
moment?
I mean, you get a lot of in art. You're always trying to find yourself. I mean, it didn't seem like for a while there I was losing my not passion, but just okay, I'm drawing. I'm trying to get better and stuff. There's been times where I just get discouraged, and my parents have always been encouraging. Hey, just keep at it. Just keep at it. Keep working hard. They worked hard for what they got, and I've got to do the same. My grandmother passing away, and my mom not wanting to weave again, or just having to take that long break from it, and then me not talking about our background or more about my mom's life or my grandmother's life, and that was kind of a big gap I wish I had back. But we need time to mourn. I know it's difficult. It was really hard for her to weave again, and we finally made that deal that if she starts weaving again, I'll start showing. I'll do artwork. I'll draw. You need to teach me. And so she started weaving again, and it's been a lot of fun to compete with her. And then my grandfather passed away, I think, in Chicago. It was hard. He's my favorite baseball player. Really looked up to him, and after that really hit me hard. I was really close to him, and just after a while, I was like, I didn't do much after that. But really haven't been a lot of forks in the road. A lot of the elders that came before me, artists, the ones that really pushed the Native American, the Arts and Crafts Act, really have opened doors and things for me, possibilities with my artwork. Just giving me opportunities that they had to fight for, really. So they eliminated a lot of the forks in the roads. The ones that have been doing artwork for quite a while now that I call, they're like Hall of Famers that I see at shows and competitions, and so when I see, I joke around with them, talk with them and everything, but I have a lot of respect for them that I see.
All right, well, we're gonna stop and take a look at a couple of your pieces here. Okay, so this is a painting of...
Oh, Mr. Joe Thornton, who I think I heard just celebrated his 101st birthday not long ago.
Yes, he's a centenarian.
Yeah.
We interviewed him as a centenarian and an
cool.
Olympic archer.
Very cool.
Right?
My mom told me, if you want to meet him, just go down. I know he has coffee with his buddies, I think, still at McDonald's early in the morning. I'm like, I can't get down to Tahlequah that early in my job, but hopefully I can meet him during the next Cherokee holiday. But yeah, Mr. Joe Thornton, I had, after hearing about his story and everything, I had to do his portrait.
That's cool. Okay, and you mentioned this was your Water is Life piece.
This one was the one I completed. That's an iconic image from Standing Rock, and water is life was a reoccurring message that we were trying to convey to people and everyone out there. So but yeah, I felt this was important to try and get out there, just to make people, like I said, raise awareness of kind of what was going on and everything, and names of everybody who went, my friends, and then their friends of friends who they traveled with, or hey, I know this person went, and I met up with this person when I was there, and I made sure that, Facebook now, you can reach out to so many people, and I made sure, hey, tag them in it, and ask them if I can put their name on the back, and make them a part of this piece so they can be appreciated,
Yeah, that's neat. That's a neat way to handle that. Okay.
This is the back of We Stand as One. It has all of the names of everybody, my friends of friends who were there. And I wrote on the back, for all of you who traveled to take blankets, food, supplies, clothes, and stood on the front lines of Standing Rock, so that's why I titled this one, We Stand as One.
Mm-hmm. And this one won Best of Class.
It just won Best of Class at the 2017 Cherokee Art Market. And I'm really proud of this. I had some admirers in Santa Fe. They were asking about the story. I showed it to them, and they actually saw somebody they recognized on the back. And then I went to CSAM in Chickasaw, and another artist there asked about the story, and I took it down, let him see the names, and his cousin or his nephew is on here, and he thought it was so cool, that was done. So I really appreciate it, the compliments, and everyone who volunteered.
Right. And this painting here?
This one I titled Mother Earth. It's kind of a play on two things. I mean, that was my mom when she was, I think she was 18 or 19 in her regalia. I used an old photograph, and it was really hard. It's my mom, so I got to make her pretty, and I got to do it right. She gave me the hardest time on it if I didn't do a good job.
Right.
But, that's my interpretation. If Mother Earth were to appear to us, what would she look like? And it's my mother. And, she's got the warm face of the Earth's core center, and, the purple mountains, a lot of color. I wanted her vibrant, where she'd just glow. If you saw her, you'd see all these rich colors of the Earth's soil, the plains, the golds that I have in there, the light blues, the small touches of the green in there, the creeks, the stream, green country with the hair. There's just a lot of symbolism with color that I wanted to put into this portrait. It's probably one of my favorite pieces that I've done.
And I hope you do get to keep this one.
Yeah, I think I want to hang on to this one. I don't know, unless my mom wants another, a Christmas present or something.
Well, thank you for your time tonight, Bryan.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was fun.